Welcome to today's episode of Soap Thing Thoughts. Joining me today is Mark Denton of DentonMajik. Welcome to the project, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Ben, for having me.
So tell us what you do. I'm sure you have a day job. You don't make shaving soap just by itself. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you do and how you got into shaving soap making, and kind of uh, one of the things that I think makes you unique is that you decided to firmly go into the space of making smaller sized products. If you could please just tell us a little bit about how you got started in soap making and what made you decide to just go almost exclusively to smaller containers.
I've been a long time hobbyist. I've probably been wet shaving since, I'm guessing, from 2008 to 2010 is when I started.
That's some years.
And it's kind of funny because I actually started with it was like the Vanderhagen starter pack that you could get from like Meyer. I mean, I live in Michigan, so Meyer is a big store.
It's like
And
Walmart, but way better.
right. So, but I also had bought a DE89 razor as well. And my biggest thing was I really want to try to save money on my shaving, because before that I was using I think it was a Gillette, some kind of cartridge razor where it was getting upwards of $25 per pack of razors to purchase. So a big thing was the cost savings. And, I got my Vanderhagen starter kit and the DE9 razor. And right from the get-go, I put the blade in, and it was upside down with the base plate. And I'd read some forums, this is a great hobby. This is, the best way to shave and everything like that. And I got done. Obviously, I had my blade, everything was put in incorrectly. And I was like, this was not a good experience. And then I realized, okay, I had the base plate on upside down. So after I figured that out, put the base plate in the correct way, it really worked out well after that.
I've never had that kind of problem when I was learning how to shave. The biggest problem I had was just like when I was learning how to wet shave with a double-edged safety razor. The biggest mistakes I was making was applying too much pressure or going against the grain on the first pass. I was making behavior mistakes
Right.
a lot. Excuse me, to the point where a lot of people were telling me, like, dude, why don't you just go back to like cartridge razors? And I was like, no, I want to learn how to do this. It's like I've seen other people do it and they do it just fine. Why can't I do it? And so I was persistent enough to keep at it. If I had listened to other people, I would have never uh, put myself into this hobby, at least not nearly to the extent that I am. Okay, so you started wet shaving for the same reason that most other people do, with the intent on saving money.
Yep.
How did you go from that into, you know what, I'm going to make shaving soap?
So, after I started wet shaving, I searched around on YouTube. I looked around and I got some channels, and I actually found a channel, and he no longer makes any content, but it's the wet shaving scientist, I believe is what his name was. It was John Halleck. It was the mad scientist of wet shaving.
Hmm.
And I think it's been probably, gosh, 4 or 5 years since he's made any content. But he was kind of inspirational to me to where he would do a lot of reviews and they were really good reviews. But then he would also do reviews where he would make his own stuff. So he would add essential oils to his, let's say, Noxema cream for a pre-shave, kind of like Perazzo.
Hmm.
Um, or he would do some kind of essential oils to kind of mimic an aftershave that he liked. So
Okay.
that really got me thinking to, okay, and I have kind of a scientific background. I really wanted to go into medicine, and I've got a lot of that scientific background and coursework. Um, I was like, yeah, I can kind of deal with this and do that. So I started to make my own, kind of aftershave, um not really an aftershave, but more or less like a Thayer's, like a witch hazel balm.
Right.
So, you know, mixing your own essential oils and different kind of skin foods and such like that. So that was a big inspiration for me.
All right, that's cool. So, so that got you into making shaving soap. What would you say when you are looking to make a scent? Like I got some products here, like some of them. One of the ones that I got recently from you that I think was really nice was a Graze Flannel.
Yep,
So that one is obviously a play on Jeffrey Bean's Gray Flannel.
correct.
And then you got some other ones. Some of them are a little bit closer to home. So if you're from Michigan, you'll probably recognize this
Yep,
because we're
Mighty
both
Mac.
Michigan residents. When you are getting ready to make a shaving soap scent, what comes first? Does the scent come first, or the label, or the idea? Like what drives your interest in making new scents?
I would say my experience and just it's kind of strange, but my my background, you know, growing up as a kid, um, I in the neighborhood that I was in living growing up in, um, we had a kind of a small woods behind of us. So we had sassafras trees, we had oak trees. So kind of those scents that I took in as a youth, you know. Um, I really try to look at those experiences um, to bring in inspiration for what I'm doing. Um, for example, I guess, and I have not done this scent yet, but sort of like a petrichor scent. And to me, and I know there's a lot of different kind of petrichor scents out there based on where you're at in the country. But for me, it's kind of that it's a hot day outside. It just starts to rain. There's storms coming in, and the rain hits the cement. And maybe you're outside playing on, concrete or whatever, and just that scent hits you. The fresh rain on cement. So, and you know, to me, to name names, Holy Caw, Tempest
Hmm.
really brought this out for me. So those are the kind of things that really kind of inspire me on scents is my background and oh my gosh, I mean, yeah, I'd love to do this scent. There's a little area of sassafras trees. We're raking up leaves, and there's sassafras or there's oak leaves, things like that. And that really has helped me de- kind of determine what kind of scent I want to do.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you and I, like I said, are both from the state of Michigan. One thing that people who are not from that state and are not familiar with it, haven't visited it, or what you might not know is once you get a little bit north of Lansing, Michigan is mostly wilderness. There's a
Yep.
lot of dense forest and lakes and sandy beaches and stuff like that. It's very underpopulated, and I vividly remember when it was quite underdeveloped, which we can't necessarily say that much anymore. But
Right.
it it's really interesting how you can step outside, and when you're not surrounded by the urban pollution, how you can instantly smell like pine tree scents, or you can smell a nearby lake, or even like during the winter time, maybe somebody's burning a fire. You can smell that off in the
Yeah.
distance, and those are nuances that kind of stick with you. Like for
Exactly.
like for example, you could just be walking down the street, and if you smell a charcoal grill, you know what that smells like.
Yep.
Like it's unmistakable. So I can see how that would inspire somebody to try to duplicate that and make it something that you can bring into your shave den. I think petrichor is interesting if we're going to talk about that, because a lot of people don't even know that that scent has a name. It's basically the combination of dirt and pavement with rain falling onto it. That's a very distinctive smell that you either love it
Exactly.
or you hate it. So I think
And Ben, the only way I describe my petrichor, and it's different from other producers around the country too, because there's other people that they're in the desert and they get a rainfall and they're picking up that scent from the desert or wherever they're at in the country. But for me, I can only bring it back to my childhood, to where I'm like playing basketball in my driveway. We've got a paved driveway, or our road is paved and it's hot out, and then all of a sudden it's going to start to storm, and all of a sudden that rain starts to fall, and everything has been so dry for a long time, and all of a sudden that rain hits the dry pavement, and that's what comes up, that scent, and for me personally, and I'm dropping names here, but the only thing that's come close to that is Holy Call, their Tempest, and Summer Storm from Chiseled Face is really close as well, but probably Holy Call, uh, Tempest is the best I can do so far.
right. No, I'm quite familiar with Chiseled Face Summer Storm. Tempest I steered clear of, because a lot of places I went, the reviews of that were not great. So that's not necessarily a great way to judge whether or not you're going to like something, but maybe I need to give it a try.
Yeah,
So
I'd
if
say
you
give it a
if it
week.
sounds the way you describe it, it might smell pretty good.
Yeah,
Let's go back to our original topic. You were originally creating shaving soaps and putting them in 4 ounce tubs like everybody else. Why did you go to 2.5 ounce tubs? I mean, I know the answer, but this is something that you have stepped into quite strongly and quite
yeah,
adamantly. Like, you stand behind these smaller tubs. This one's a Nag Champa scent, by the way.
yep.
Why these smaller tubs? And these are real glass, so they're not even plastic either. I mean, the lid is probably plastic, but it's a good smell.
So when I started, I actually started off and I was pouring into, it was a 4 ounce tub. And then as I got the game changer base going, um, I kind of looked at the market and what everybody else was doing. And a lot of people were doing between 4 ounces and 6 ounces. Um, and personally, as being a hobbyist, I really liked what Barristan or Man were doing with their containers. I liked their container style, so I did find their containers. I resourced those and started doing that. And basically, I did start. I was like, you know what? I really want to kind of follow. Do I offer like a 2.5 or 2 to 3 ounce container, or do I just kind of follow what the market's doing with the 4 to 6 ounce? And at that time, I was starting out, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to follow what everybody else is doing. And I actually did a little bit more, and it was marketed as a 5.5 ounce, but it was actually closer to 6 ounces in the tubs. And it was the exact same kind of containers that Barrister and Man would use. Really nice, low profile, really nice containers. So after that, I mean, I looked at my cost analysis, and my budget is low. You know, I'm not going to buy pallets and pallets of containers and product. I'm not, and that's the thing in my business. I'm not going to go into big debt either. So as a hobbyist, I looked at it, and probably 2 years before I actually started into being a business owner, I was like, I've got so much product, and there's no way I'm ever going to get through any of this product in 5 years, 10 years, even on a rotation.
Right.
And I really thought that, you know, samples are a good thing. If companies are putting out samples, that's an excellent seller. Um, so I was trying to meet somewhere in the middle, and that's where I came up with the 2.5 ounces for soap and 2 ounce aftershave. Um, Number one, I can get the containers a lot cheaper. Um, if I'm buying from a supplier, I don't have to buy skids of these contain like 6 ounce containers and 4 ounce aftershave bottles. I can pretty much do what I want with them. I can buy 24 of these, or I can buy 72 of these. I don't have to buy skids of these.
Right.
So my control is better. And I'm, like I said before, I'm not going to go into debt because I do this part time. I work full time. I'm not going to do this in a way where I'm going to be, burdened with debt. Um, so I was able to get, the components that I need at a price that was very reasonable versus trying to purchase those containers, the 6 ounce containers, the big aftershave bottles at their cost. And I think it's better for the consumer as well, because I went through a big purge as a hobbyist, probably a year before I started my business. I looked at my shelf and I was like, how am I ever going to get through any of this? And I was selling stuff at the same time, which is another story. Um, it's weird with our hobby where you can use a soap and put it on the marketplace and somebody's going to buy it almost at, market value. So basically that's kind of how I came up with the 2.5 ounce and the 2 ounce aftershaves. You're going to save space in your den. I guess you're not going to feel as guilty about not having as much product in your den. And it's just easier to use. Granted, you're not tub loading, you know, but with the manufacturer that I have for the soap containers, that's all they got right now.
Yeah. So let's unpack some of that for a little bit. So basically, what you're saying is that hobbyists who buy this stuff are not likely to use it all anyway. So why give them all this product that they're just not going to use? And B, you're trying to avoid just a truly insane startup cost that, in with the position you're in, would be untenable. So that's all well and good, but I think we had to unpack the size thing for a moment. Maybe that can be the official focus of the episode. But I think the reason a lot of soap makers are still doing 4 ounce, 5 ounce, even 6 ounce tubs is because this is a very young hobby. And when it first got started, there were significantly fewer hobbyists, or if there were hobbyists, there weren't that many products for them to overload their closets and their bathrooms with. And so it was a lot more plausible that you could expect somebody to burn through a 4 ounce puck of soap, in 3 months and then turn around and buy another one. And so I think these 4 ounce, 5 ounce, 6 ounce tubs are sort of they became the de facto industry standard in maybe some unofficial terms. And so I think that's why you see so many artisans using those sizes still, is because they're looking at the next artisan over there that's using them. And so they're kind of just jumping on uh, what everybody else is doing because that's the easier thing to do. But for somebody like me who has, oodles of shaving soap, couple hundred pucks at this point, not only is there, shaving soap that I'm not going to use, I'm not going to, use it all the way to an empty tub. Most of the stuff that I have is eventually either going to get sold or given away. And I got to be honest with you, the last stuff that's probably likely to leave my shave den is going to be small stuff like this because I can burn through it easier and it doesn't take up that much space. One of the things that I learned about me from this hobby is that I do not like collecting things. Because when you have a hobby that involves collecting stuff, whether it's stamps or rocks from the beach or knives or whatever it is you think you have to collect, sooner or later it gets unwieldy to the point where it's not only annoying to try to manage it, but it's annoying to look at. To be honest with you, I mean that's one thing they don't tell you about this hobby is that every once in a while you walk into your shave den, you look at this, and it's just like, what have I done? Uh, but I don't get that sensation when I'm looking at, a whole row of this stuff in my shave den because there's just not much to it. It's a more appropriate size for somebody that has a lot of it.
I would definitely agree because before I started the business, I did. I took a long and good look at everything that I had. And for me, it was probably close to 200 sets, of, the, basic providers, your PAA, your barrister man, Katie's Mubbles, everything like that. And I actually had like, I would have backups of backups. And I got to thinking, it's like, when am I going to use that backup of a soap and an aftershave that I've only used twice in the last 4 months?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have 4 pucks of PAA
Yeah,
Sakura Blue, and I'm probably never going to use them all.
right. And not to discredit the artisan because it's a great product, but do you really need to make that much of the product and sell it for what they're selling it at? I
Let
mean,
me
and that was my biggest thing is like it's just I got caught so much into it. I was so wrapped up into it, and then basically it was the software side, not the razor and brushes. Um, and there is a shelf life to it. Granted, you can sell it, you can turn around, you can piff it, and that's fine. But for personal use, it was it was overwhelming. So I
yeah.
and that was the biggest reason why I went with the smaller sizes.
Let me unpack a couple things for a second. Starting with the second thing you said about shelf life. Shelf life is interesting when it comes to shaving soap because I have occasionally had pucks of soap that I would put it away and come back like 9, 10, 11 months later, and the scent is just gone. It just dissipated away.
Yeah,
Or it's dried out to the point where it's kind of difficult to use. But then I've had other shaving soaps that are way older than that, and they're doing just fine. And so I shelf life is an interesting thing to think about because we don't know um, how long this stuff lasts. Any evidence we have for how long artisan shaving soap lasts in a tub is anecdotal at best. Uh,
correct.
because for those of you who don't know, I'm active duty military and I've been stationed in Turkey for almost 2 years. I have an entire collection of shaving soaps back in the States that have not been touched by anybody in 2 years by the time I get back to it. And so who's to say which ones are still going to be perfectly good to go and which ones are going to, have gave up the ghost? I just don't know. And it's probably not going to even vary between brands. Like, oh, all my PAA stuff is fine, but all my Sterling stuff, the scent went away. It could be this what's another brand? This 345 soap is just fine. The other one is it's done. It's
Yeah,
sat around too long. You just don't know. So
right.
I think that that shelf life is hard to really uh, speak to with any degree of accuracy. And then the other thing you said about do people really need that much shaving soap? The logical devil's advocate question, if you can call it that, would be that some people, some artisans have gotten to a space where they have so much production capacity that it's almost cheaper to do larger tubs of soap
It,
than it is to do something smaller like this. Like
it's a selling point.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
think you are in a space where it makes financial sense to make shaving soaps this small, but if you're somebody who has like huge
and
commercial
right.
equipment,
And I mean to make a caveat there, I'm an exception because I do this part time. I've never, you know, I really don't have the desire to go full time with
right?
this. This is just a part time business for me. I don't have the space. I don't have the resources to have, you know, a ton of space for all these butters, all these oils, everything like that. So that's kind of a caveat for me.
Yeah,
Other people might be different. They want to do something full time. They want to make a living out of this. This is just a part time commitment for me.
yeah, yeah. And I understand that. Some people get sucked into it though. Like I vividly remember when Heather from Zingari Man had to basically buy a whole new building because she ran out of space in her house to make all the shaving soap she was making. It's crazy how that happens.
Yeah.
But to circle back around to this, one of the things that I think is an unexpected added positive aspect to your products is that they're not, well, the lids are plastic, but the tubs that you found are glass.
Yep.
So, that in my opinion, it's just like, okay, it's a smaller tub, but you know, the shelf appeal just sitting in my shave den, that looks like a significantly higher quality product that's sitting there. Now I know shelf appeal isn't everything, but the glass, I think it really appeals to me because people don't use glass anymore. Like some legacy soap brands do, but you're one of the rare artisans that will put your soap in a glass tub. I think that's a nice touch personally.
Yeah, the larger companies that I looked at for like mass producing, the bigger volumes of containers definitely were plastics. And to tell you the truth, I get my stuff from Amazon. It's cheap, but it's effective and it works. For
Right.
my business model, it works. Um, I don't have to buy skids of product and store it. Um, I can buy, I can say, hey, I'm low on containers. And, tomorrow I buy 2 orders of containers and I got my containers in 3 days. And I can use them up, I fill them up, and I'm done. So it's easy for me. It's almost like a just in time kind of inventory.
Right. Yeah, just in time inventory, I think is a good way to describe it. Have you ever had a
Yeah.
scent come out and it sold out just like way faster than you expected? You're just like, whoa, where did it all go?
I would say probably early on when I brought on KRS Classic, that was before the Game Changer base, before I
Mhm.
introduced a lot of the butters and the dual lie. Game or KRS Classic, I'm sorry, is a dupe of Koros cologne.
Mhm.
An awesome 1980s kind of barbershop kind of scent.
Yep.
And I used mutton tallow with that, but then everything else except for oh, I can't. There was one other butter, but everything else was a soft oil and no sodium hydroxide. So it was a soft soap. Um, but yeah, everything else with that was, very I don't know how to explain it. Those sold out really quick. I don't know how it happened. I know at that time there, and a big thing too is, in this hobby is marketing, and you're marketing to different various YouTube artists and different channels. And I utilize a few different artisans, or not artisans, but influencers, sort of like yourself. You've been a really good customer, and I appreciate that. But this was an art or influencer that really pushed this product and really enjoy the product. So yeah, that kind of really pushed sales for me. And it was definitely hard to keep up because mutton tallow is not cheap. I had to purchase more and try to keep up with the demand. So
Yeah, in the interest of full disclosure, I mean, you and I have had our disagreements, but I think for the most part, the reason that I support your product so strongly, and every time I see one that looks like I might be interested in it, I got to get my hands on it, is because I don't stand by that. I do not stand by that. I'm
come
not.
on,
Nope. Nope.
Petra
That's
Grain.
Nope, not my game. That one was not for me. That one was for those of you who don't know, I have been maybe more vocal than I should have been uh, about the fact that I like fougères, but I did not like that one. That was not something in my wheelhouse. But I firmly stand behind this. I really wish more companies would do this, at least with some of their best sellers. Like, if you really want to get into more people's shave dens, I think, I don't know, maybe I am giving myself false hope, but I have to believe that this is the future in some way or another, that more and more artisans are going to do this more often. I And if I got to push it along, to maybe get other artisans to do it, then that's what I'm going to do. So, an unrelated question. I know we're doing a hard pivot, but you mentioned just a moment ago, and you've also mentioned this off camera that I think your current soap base does not use sodium hydroxide. Is that correct?
No, it does.
Okay.
So when I first started off, it was just a potassium hydroxide
Okay.
base, and that was
So,
with my first shaving soaps. I really wanted to, and starting off in the hobby, like a lot of other people, I didn't know, anything. I searched out, and I had no idea. I did a kind of a blind search. One of my favorite soaps at the time was Martin de Condre. So I searched out, shaving soap recipes, Martin de Condre, and I found a recipe that was comparable to that, but it was a little different because it was only potassium hydroxide. So it's a little softer of a soap.
right.
So
So the question I was getting at is, what exactly does sodium hydroxide do to a soap that compelled you to put it in your future bases? Like, for those of us who don't know soap making fundamentals, why is that such a common ingredient that you see in practically every shaving soap?
sure, that'll firm it up. That'll firm the base up. A lot of like potassium hydroxide soaps, it's almost like a cream. And as you add sodium hydroxide, you can create cropes. And if you have a good blend of the two, then you're going to in between, a crope and a harder soap
So
like that.
it's more or less a thickener, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You see, even I didn't know that. I was just like, huh, it's in every soap. I guess it must give it a structure or something. So
Yeah.
I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Um, let me ask you some before we get out of here, or we're coming up on our time here. But let me ask you a couple of easier questions. Which uh, which product that you've made so far is the one that you're most proud of?
There's actually a few because when I first started off, I had no idea what I was doing. I was, like I said, I searched for a soap recipe, for like Martin de Condre, and I came up with this recipe, and not knowing exactly what the hell I was doing, and not even knowing, oh, there's all these companies that have all these fragrance oils and everything like that, and dupes and everything like that. I figured that, hey, you're making any sense. You're buying every single fragrance oil per scent. So I'm looking at all these top notes and middle notes and base notes going, how in the hell are these people making these complex fragrances and purchasing all these oils when they want to sell to this many people, you know, um, this kind of structure of a soap or an aftershave, so probably my my biggest thing was probably Bright. That was my first ever shave soap I ever made. I loved menthol and shave soap. I liked like peppermint. I love lemongrass. Just something really light, good for summer. And and that was probably my first one. And then the next was probably I finally moved into. I figured some stuff out, got the recipe down, the game changer base, which I haven't changed, and I really don't think I'm ever going to change. Is Mayberry Man. Um, and unfortunately, I'm searching out a new fragrance oil supplier for that because my supplier, they're no longer using that fragrance oil.
That's a shame because this one's a good one. If
Yep,
you're looking for a barbershop scent, this one
exactly.
was hard to beat.
So those are probably the top two. But then also being creative, um, I like mixing my own stuff. I don't like taking just one scent and trying to reproduce what somebody, four or five other people have produced already. Um, or if it is just one scent, then maybe it's a scent that's not done really, that's unique. So kind of in the future, I mean, I'm going to do some of my own blends. Some of the previous blends I've done is like Tres Flores, which is you know, my label name was Flores de Amor,
Hmm.
for the Tres Flores hair oil. Um, and also I'm looking at a musk scent, which is an Avon based product.
Hmm.
Thai Win
Interesting.
Thai Thai Winds. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I can't say I have.
This is the aftershave bottle.
That's a pretty gnarly looking aftershave bottle.
But look up Thai Winds. That's a really good fragrance. Um, and also I've got a couple other cologne dupes, and then Sacred Michigami is a Michigan kind of scent that I'm looking at doing. So cedar, oak moss, tobacco. Um, what else? Sage, and then to kind of continue on with the Goonies theme, since I'm a big '80s movie fan,
Yeah.
is the Goondocks. So if you think of the scene in the Goonies where you know Chunk and the gang, they're riding their bikes, they're riding towards the Fratellis and stuff like that, um, in Pacific Northwest, where you know you got you got the sea spray, so you got your kind of ocean kind of scent. Then you got your patchouli kind of dark, dirt petrichor scent, with like a cannon smoke, kind of scent as well. So that'll kind of round it up with the
That'll
Goondocks.
that'll be cool. Goonies is a funny movie. Another thing you
Yeah.
should do is you should make a shaving soap that smells like gunpowder and cash and call it Nakatomi Plaza.
Oh, that'd be good.
I'd buy that.
That would definitely
I
be
don't think
good.
anybody has ever done the smell of money before. I think that's been done once, and I'm not sure how well it went over. I don't recall what that soap even was or who made it, but I seem to remember somebody did at one point.
I
That'd
think
be
that was
funny
the
though.
club. Maybe that was A&E Club.
Could have been.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past Peter Charkalis to do that. Uh, well, the final question I have for you is a question that I ask every guest that I have on here, and that is, what have you learned through all your experience in wet shaving that you can pass on to somebody else? The biggest piece of advice you can give.
I would say go with your initial instinct. If you like what you like, let's say you're using a mild razor with an efficient blade or a real sharp blade, and if it works for you and you're not getting any kind of irritation or anything like that, then use it. And if you like a scent, but somebody else is like, trashing it, but if you like it, you like it. It works for you. You have to just work with what works for you. And don't get caught up in all the social media, um, you know, the Reddit kind of, I don't know, the
Reddit is a
blogs,
dumpster fire.
like the blogs and stuff like this. Oh, this is crap. This company's crap. Some people they might have had their own hard times in the past, but they've made up for it, and they still produce really quality, good products. And that's honorable. If
Yeah,
it works for you, it works for you. Um, and if somebody says something doesn't smell good, that's because they're basing it off of their scent.
yeah,
And this whole hobby is totally subjective.
yeah.
Totally
It
subjective.
it it is totally subjective, and there have been plenty of times where I've you know done reviews of products where I was just like, I do not like this. And maybe I need to do a better job of saying, I don't know. On the one hand, I shouldn't have to say that because it should be implied that just because I don't like something doesn't mean that you're not going to like it either. But sometimes you got to say that. Sometimes you got to say, look, just because I don't like this doesn't mean you won't, you know,
Yeah.
because you don't want to single-handedly tank a product because some artisans, and I'm not saying that that's you, but some artisans are so teetering right on the edge that one bad review is enough to just they're done. Uh,
Right.
and also, like, I've never understood why people will get on social media and make character jabs as an excuse to hate on a certain artisan. Like, I'm not going to mention any names, but I bought products and showcased them and had people send me messages like, well, this person did this and this. So, like, I
Right.
don't I don't care. Like, they're
Yeah.
making a product that's a good product. What
It
do I
still
care
works
what
for me.
what they've done like outside of work? Like, why do I care? So,
You know.
I don't know. That's just me though.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's and I don't know, the last 6, 7 years, there's been kind of a tribal mentality. You know, you get into your tribe and or I don't want to say it, but like a fanboy kind of situation. But it's just shaving. To take that from somebody else, it's just shaving. You know,
Yeah,
um,
it is the
it's not
pinpoint
that serious.
the
And
yeah,
when I tried to explain to my dad that, oh yeah, I have these old used shaving soaps that I can sell to other people, and he was like, "What? You're using old shave soaps and you're selling to other people and they're buying it?" And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, that's just part of the hobby. So, I mean, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Don't knock somebody if they like this product, whether it be a razor, a brush, a blade, some kind of combination, or a soap scent, a soap base. It if it works for them, it works for them. It might not work for you, and that's the biggest thing in this hobby. If you don't like it, you can sell it,
yeah,
which is weird. It's
yeah.
weird. You're selling soap.
It is weird and fascinating that the soaps, the razors, the brushes seem to retain their value and can be resold. Like, it's a something I never expected to work out so well
Yeah.
for this hobby. And the thing I'll end with is, yeah, you're right. It is just shaving. Like, let's not get, so passionate about this that we're burning bridges and pointing fingers and like starting fires and running amok. Like
Exactly.
all it is
It's
the
shaving.
surgically precise removal of facial hair from the area immediately surrounding your pie hole. Like,
Yep.
it's not that big of a deal. It's not that deep, folks. It's not that deep. All right. It is time to bring this video to a close. I will go ahead and put all the information for DentonMajik in the description of the video. So go ahead and check out everything that he has to offer. Like I said, I don't stand behind very many things quite so strongly, but I think you are doing the right thing with these smaller containers, and I hope to see that continue into the future.
Yep. definitely.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's going to be it for today. Questions, comments, put them in the comment section of the video. Otherwise, until next time, this is Soap Thing telling you, shave like you mean it. Thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you.